The first thing prisoners notice when they arrive isn't the walls. It's the silence. No shouting. No guards barking orders. No sounds of other inmates. Just the echo of your own footsteps as you're led down a narrow concrete corridor, hands bound behind your back, a hood pulled tight over your head. The air smells damp, metallic, and old like water trapped somewhere it shouldn't be. Before we dive in, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Different countries, different lives, but tonight, we're all entering the same place. If true crime stories pull you in, if real-life horror hidden behind concrete walls fascinates you, hit like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share this with someone who can handle the truth. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a prison story. It's a place the world pretends doesn't exist. By the time the hood comes off, it's already too late. This place has a name whispered only in fear: Dolphin Prison. Officially, it doesn't exist. There are no public records, no address, no mention in court documents. Inmate families are told their loved ones were relocated. Lawyers are denied access. Journalists who ask questions are warned or disappear from the conversation entirely. Dolphin Prison is where Russia sends the men it wants erased. The prison sits isolated near a frozen body of water, surrounded by high concrete walls topped with rusted razor wire. Guard towers stand like motionless sentinels, their windows dark, their presence constant. There are no nearby towns, no roads that show up on civilian maps, just forest, water, and concrete. Once you enter Dolphin, you don't serve time. Time serves you. Cells are small, windowless, and illuminated day and night by a single harsh light. Prisoners are kept alone, total isolation. No cellmates, no conversation, no human contact beyond silent guards who never answer questions. Inmates are shackled whenever they leave their cells, even for a shower. They are forbidden from sitting or lying down during daylight hours. They must stand, facing the wall, hands behind their backs. Talking to themselves is punished. Looking directly at guards is punished. Asking questions is punished. Punishment here is quiet. No screaming, no beatings in the open. Just longer isolation, fewer meals, colder cells. Men disappear from their units without explanation. No announcements, no paperwork. One day the cell next to you is occupied. The next day, it's empty forever. One of the men sent to Dolphin Prison was Ivan Petrov, a former financial crimes investigator turned whistleblower. His crime wasn't murder or terrorism. It was knowledge. He had uncovered a network connecting organized crime figures, corrupt officials, and offshore money pipelines. He tried to expose it. Instead, he vanished. Ivan later described his arrival at Dolphin in a secret letter smuggled out years later. Then they stitched a symbol into my prison jacket at Dolphin. I asked what it meant. The guard looked at me and said, "It means you swim here until you drown." Ivan learned quickly that Dolphin wasn't designed to rehabilitate or even punish. It was designed to break. Prisoners were woken at random hours for inspections that lasted for hours. Meals were unpredictable, sometimes skipped entirely. Medical care was minimal, and requests were treated as weakness. Men with heart conditions, untreated infections, or mental breakdowns were ignored until they stopped moving. Death, when it happened, was quiet. Official records listed causes like natural failure or sudden illness. Families were never allowed to see the bodies. And then there was death row. Dolphin Prison houses some of Russia's most dangerous and politically sensitive inmates. Officially, capital punishment is rare, and officially, Dolphin operates by its own rules. Executions are not announced. Inmates are not informed. They simply vanish. Former guards would later describe how certain prisoners were removed at night, led down corridors they'd never seen before, the sound of doors opening, then closing, and afterward, silence so deep it felt deliberate. No one ever returned from that wing. What made Dolphin even more terrifying was its secrecy. Even other prisons denied its existence. Transfers in and out were handled verbally, never documented. Guards rotated frequently and were forbidden from discussing their assignments even with family. Breaking that silence carried consequences. One former guard, speaking anonymously years later, said, "You don't work at Dolphin, you survive it. And when you leave, you pretend it never happened." But something changed. In late winter, a prisoner was brought in who didn't belong there. His name was Mikhail Orlov. Unlike the others, Orlov wasn't broken when he arrived. He didn't panic. He didn't beg. He watched. He listened. He followed rules too perfectly. Orlov had connections, deep ones. He knew people inside the system. People who could move him in and out of places most never returned from. And somehow, Orlov was planning something. Other inmates noticed subtle changes after his arrival. Guards became tense. Extra inspections were ordered. Entire cell blocks were locked down without explanation. Then rumors spread, whispered through ventilation shafts, and tapping codes were earned over years of isolation. Orlov had proof, not just of Dolphin's existence, but of what happened inside it. Records, names, orders signed by people high enough to never be touched, and worse, evidence that Dolphin prison wasn't just holding inmates. It was being used to erase political and financial liabilities. Men who knew too much. Men who could talk. Men who couldn't be allowed to stand trial. Then, one night, Orlov's cell was emptied. No announcement. No explanation. His light went off. By morning, his name was scratched off the internal roster. Officially, Mikhail Orlov had been relocated, but the guards avoided that corridor afterward. They moved faster, quieter, as if something had gone wrong. Days later, the prison entered full lockdown. No showers, no movement, no meals for nearly 24 hours. And in the darkness of their cells, the remaining prisoners heard something they'd never heard before: running water, not pipes, open water, flowing somewhere deep beneath the prison. And then a door that had never been opened before, because whatever lay behind it was never meant to be seen, and someone had just tried to expose it.
The lockdown lasted 46 hours. Inside Dolphin prison, time didn't move in hours or days, it moved in suffering. Prisoners counted time by meals, by inspections, by the rare moments when lights flickered and shadows shifted. During lockdown, even that rhythm disappeared. No food trays slid through the slots. No guards marched the corridors. No orders were barked. Just the hum of electricity and the distant and settling sound of water moving somewhere beneath the concrete. Ivan Petrov stood facing the wall of his cell, hands locked behind his back, legs burning from hours of forced standing. He had learned long ago not to collapse, not to show weakness. In Dolphin, weakness wasn't punished immediately. It was remembered. The water sound was new. It hadn't been there before Orlov arrived, and it hadn't been there before Orlov disappeared. When the lights finally snapped back to full brightness, the prison felt different, tighter, colder, as if the walls themselves were alert. Guards returned, but not as before. These weren't the usual silent men with blank expressions. These guards moved with urgency. Their boots struck the floor faster. Their hands stayed close to their weapons. They didn't linger outside cells. Something had gone wrong. Ivan noticed it during the first inspection after lockdown. A guard paused outside his cell for half a second longer than usual. Their eyes met just briefly, and in that moment Ivan saw something he'd never seen in Dolphin prison before. Fear. Later that day, Ivan received something that should have been impossible: a note. It was folded tightly and shoved through the food slot with his tray. No guard should have risked that. No prisoner should have been able to write it. The message was short, written in cramped, hurried handwriting. Orlov didn't get relocated. He got close. Too close. The lower wing is real. Ivan's heart pounded, but his face stayed blank. Cameras were everywhere. The actions were dangerous. The lower wing. For years, inmates had whispered about it corridors beneath the prison. Sealed off during construction. Supposedly flooded or unstable. Official schematics ended above ground level. Anything below was denied. But the water sounds told a different story. Over the next few days, Dolphin began quietly erasing its own population. Cells emptied overnight. Men who had been there for decades vanished without a trace. Their lights shut off. Their food slots stayed closed. Their names were removed from internal lists. No one said death, but everyone understood. Ivan knew why it was happening. Orlov had forced their hand. Before his disappearance, Orlov had been methodical. He'd used the prison's routines against itself, timing inspections, mapping guard rotations, exploiting the rare moments when cameras went dark during maintenance cycles. Most prisoners broke under isolation. Orlov adapted. He'd memorized sounds, doors, elevators. The way or pressure shifted when certain sections opened. And most importantly, he discovered that beneath Dolphin Prison wasn't just infrastructure. It was a system. The lower wing wasn't a punishment block. It was a processing area. Prisoners taken there weren't meant to come back, but Orlov had found a way to document it. What he collected wasn't just testimony, it was proof, transfer orders, execution schedules, disguised as medical relocations, even video files, stored on a device small enough to be hidden inside prison-issued clothing. Someone on the inside had helped him. That someone was now in danger. The investigation outside Dolphin was moving too, though no one was supposed to know about it. Sergei Volkov hadn't stopped digging after Orlov's disappearance, quietly. He'd traced financial records, encrypted communications, sealed transportation logs. Every trail led back to the same conclusion. Dolphin Prison wasn't just a detention center. It was an execution facility operating beyond judicial oversight. And Orlov had been preparing to expose it to international watchdogs. That couldn't be allowed. Inside Dolphin, pressure turned inward. Interrogations began, not formal ones, but psychological ones. Guards asked questions during inspections. Innocent questions, casual questions. Did Orlov speak to you? Did he say anything unusual? Did you notice anything strange before lockdown? Wrong answers led to isolation extensions. Silence led to suspicion. Ivan stayed quiet, too quiet, and that made him stand out. One night, long after lights out, Ivan heard it again, the sound of moving water, louder now, closer. Then a mechanical hum beneath his feet, deep and vibrating. An elevator. One that didn't exist on any official plan. Moments later, footsteps approached his cell. Not guards, these were heavier, slower, purposeful. The slot opened. Prepare for transfer, a voice said flatly. Ivan didn't move. In Dolphin Prison, transfers meant one thing. He was shackled, hooded, and led down corridors he'd never walked before. The air grew colder, damper. The smell of stagnant water thickened. The elevator doors opened with a low metallic groan. As it descended, Ivan felt pressure build in his ears. When the hood was removed, he understood why Dolphin Prison worked so hard to deny this place. The lower wing wasn't flooded. It was operational. Concrete halls stretched ahead, reinforced and sealed. Observation rooms lined the walls, their windows dark. Equipment sat idle, clinical and clean. Not like a prison. Like a facility. Ivan was taken past a door marked only with a number. Inside, he saw it. Rows of sealed files. Digital terminals. Monitors paused on frames of men being escorted, restrained, processed. Names he recognized, faces he knew. And on one screen paused, frozen in time, was Mikhail Orlov, alive. Bruised, restrained, but very much alive. The guard beside Ivan leaned in close. You see, he whispered. Dolphin doesn't kill everyone. Some people are useful. Ivan's mind raced. Orlov hadn't been executed. He'd been contained. And whatever he knew, whatever he had gathered, was valuable enough to keep him breathing. For now. As Ivan was dragged away, he caught one final glimpse of the monitor. A new file had been opened. It carried Ivan Petrov's name. Because Dolphin Prison didn't just erase men. It studied them. And now, Ivan knew too much. If you think this is dark, you're not ready for what comes next. By the time Ivan Petrov saw his name added to the lower wing registry, he understood the final truth about Dolphin Prison. No one was sent here to serve a sentence. They were sent here to be studied, broken, and when necessary deleted. The guards never acknowledged the registry out loud. They didn't need to. In Dolphin, paperwork mattered more than words. Once a name appeared on that system, the prisoner's fate was no longer theoretical. It was scheduled. Ivan stopped sleeping altogether. Sleep made you careless. Carelessness got you transferred. He stood every day facing the wall, memorizing sounds, footsteps, or rhythms. Elevator timing. He learned the difference between routine patrols and emergency movement. He learned which guards avoided eye contact and which ones lingered too long. And slowly, he realized something terrifying. The prison was shrinking. Entire wings were being emptied, not relocated, purged. Guards burned documents in sealed barrels. Servers were wiped and rebooted under new encryption. The administration wasn't just reacting. They were cleaning up. Whatever Orlov had done, it had reached farther than Dolphin's walls, outside the prison. Sergei Volkov was already paying the price. His apartment was searched while he was at work. Nothing was stolen, but everything had been touched. His laptop camera light flickered once on its own. His bank access was temporarily frozen, then restored without explanation. A message arrived from an unknown contact, sent through an encrypted channel he hadn't used in years. Stop. This is bigger than you. They're preparing to burn the whole structure. Sergei didn't reply. Instead, he forwarded everything: documents, recordings, metadata to 3 separate organizations in 3 different countries. If one channel went dark, the others would light up. Inside Dolphin, the lower wing became fully operational. Ivan was transferred again, this time without a hood. They wanted him to see. The lower wing felt nothing like a prison. The walls were smooth, freshly painted. The air was filtered and dry. Cameras followed every movement, not for security but for observation. Here, prisoners weren't treated like criminals. They were treated like assets. Ivan passed rooms where men sat strapped to chairs, answering questions no one pretended were voluntary. He passed medical bays with restraints built into the beds. He saw files labeled with dates instead of names, expiration dates. And then he saw Orlov. Mikhail Orlov was thinner than before, his head still shaved, his wrists marked from restraints. But his eyes were alive, burning with focus. When he saw Ivan, he nodded once. That was all. That was enough. Later, alone in an observation room, Orlov finally spoke. "They're not afraid of exposure," he said calmly. "They're afraid of verification." Ivan didn't answer. They can deny rumors. They can bury testimonies. But they can't erase documents that confirm each other across borders. Orlov explained what he had done. He hadn't tried to escape. He hadn't tried to survive. He had tried to make Dolphin undeniable. Every transfer order, every death listed as medical failure, every budget discrepancy, he cross-linked them. Build a chain so tight that removing one piece would expose the rest. "They'll kill me for it," Orlov said, without emotion. "But they won't be able to kill the pattern." The alarms began that night, not loud ones, controlled system alerts, server access conflicts, unauthorized data replication. Dolphin's internal network was bleeding information faster than it could be sealed. Guards panicked, not openly, but internally. Orders contradicted each other. The warden disappeared from public areas. External communications spiked, then went silent. Ivan watched it happen from his cell. For the first time, the prison wasn't watching the prisoners. It was watching itself. The lockdown that followed was absolute. No movement, no inspections, no meals. Then, something unprecedented happened. A guard spoke to Ivan. "You shouldn't be here," the man whispered through the slot. "None of you should." Ivan didn't respond. "Transfers are happening tonight," the guard continued. "Not relocations, eliminations. That was the moment Ivan knew Dolphin was collapsing inward. The final transfer began just before dawn. Orlov was removed from his cell first, and Ivan. Elevator descended deeper than before, past levels Ivan hadn't known existed. The air grew colder, heavier. When the doors opened, Ivan saw real water contained behind reinforced glass walls. Execution without witnesses. Orlov stopped walking. This is where it ends, one guard said. Orlov turned to him. No, he replied softly. This is where it leaks. The lights went out. Not a power failure. I shut down. Emergency systems kicked in late, misaligned. Doors failed to seal. Files auto-synced to external nodes triggered by the breach. In the confusion, a single shot echoed. No one ever officially recorded who fired it. When control was restored, Orlov was gone, not dead. Gone. By the time daylight reached Dolphin's outer walls, helicopters circled overhead, foreign markings visible to those who knew what to look for. Diplomatic pressure had arrived faster than Dolphin's architects ever imagined. The prison went quiet. Days later, inmates were transferred openly. Families were notified. Lawyers were granted access under exceptional circumstances. No official statement was made. There never would be. Dolphin prison didn't close. It was erased. Accords were sealed. Staff reassigned. The site was reclassified as decommissioned infrastructure. Satellite images later showed the facility abandoned, slowly decaying near the frozen water. Ivan Petrov was released under a new identity. He never testified publicly. He never spoke about Dolphin, but years later, when journalists uncovered classified archives confirming the existence of undisclosed detention facilities, one file stood out. A single note attached to a data dump, and signed, "Prisons don't kill people, systems do." Mikhail Orlov was never officially found. Some believe he died that night. Others believe he was traded, exchanged quietly, permanently removed from every record. But one thing is certain, Dolphin prison was never meant to be discovered, and the only reason the world knows it existed is because someone inside decided silence was more dangerous than death. If the story unsettled you, it should have, because Dolphin was not unique. And somewhere, right now, another place just like it is operating in the dark, waiting for someone brave enough to expose it. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one.